This episode is brought to you by Jersey Mike's. It's that time. It's the best time. It's time for Points in the Paint. It's our podcast devoted solely to WCC women's basketball. Ann Schatz, joined by my partner, the incomparable, the Professor Mary Murphy. Mayor, thanks again for being with us. Episode number 6.
I know it's been a quick 6, and it's an exciting time of year as we reach the halfway point in WCC women's basketball play, and can't wait till we get to the finish line.
All right, before we talk particulars about hoops in terms of what's transpired, what's coming, some great memorable individual performances, and a wonderful interview, let's get up to speed as to some of the happenings going on in college basketball, college athletics right now concerning the Power Four, which would be the conferences SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and who am I forgetting?
12.
Big 12, thank you. Here's the reason. The Power Four would like an expansion of their previously existing autonomous legislative powers. They want more say in rulemaking, policy decisions, NCAA championships too, tournament format, revenue distributions, even the selection committee process. The Power Four claims this is just a conversation starter, but this was serious enough for many conference commissioners across the land to weigh in, including our wonderful commissioner, Stu Jackson. Here was his statement after the Power Four made that bit of a power push. Assessing the numerous changes in college athletics and their effects, it appears the Autonomy Four conferences are seizing more decision-making power. It's vital for the basketball-focused leaders and a broader group of stake-holding decision-makers across college sports to build engaged and properly weighted representation as we look forward for basketball and Olympic sports in the wake of these Power Four discussions. The future of college athletics and the opportunities for the larger pool of student athletes requires a diverse collaboration of representation focused on the greater good. Opportunities should not be commandeered by a few to dilute the fairest benefit to all. Mayor, those were powerful words from Stu Jackson, who has decades of experience in basketball, from coaching all the way to the highest administrative levels in the NBA, commissioners at the Big East, and the commissioner now at the WCC. I'd love your take.
Well, and he's also a member of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee, a very powerful committee. And I love the energy and the powerfulness of that statement. There are 28 other conferences in this country that are impacted by this in a big time way. And my favorite line from the whole thing is, the opportunity should not be commandeered by a few to dilute fairest benefit to all. There's a lot at stake as we roll forward. And just for me personally, these are rapidly changing times in intercollegiate athletics, from football all the way down to soccer or volleyball. Like, you name a sport, everybody is impacted by what's going on right now. And the interests of Olympic sports, men's and women's basketball are all part of this formula. And I just love that Stu is going out there and being forceful about that and saying, no, we need a wider net. We need more people involved in this conversation, because there's NIL, revenue sharing, conference realignment. So much is going on. We don't know where the future is going, but the WCC and Stu Jackson certainly want a voice in where we're headed.
I love the last part of your statement, especially. The WCC, and Stu is leading the charge, wants that fairness, wants the representation, wants a seat at the table, along with those other conferences that are saying the exact same thing. When Stu was with the Big East, he was very collaborative with other conferences. He wants that same mentality going forward with the WCC.
Couldn't agree more.
I would imagine that there will be more statements coming from Stu as the percolations begin to, I don't know, maybe it spreads a little bit, but it's good to know that the WCC has someone in their corner. All these athletes and all these teams and programs, I'm really emboldened by Stu's representation of this conference. And it's a wonderful conference that gives so many great opportunities.
Yeah, and I mean, we're here to talk about women's basketball, but it's just nice to know that Commissioner Jackson's got everybody's back.
Love it. All right. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. And we're going to move on, but we're going to keep you at the forefront in case we need to revisit this again. All right, Mayor, let's talk some basketball. It wasn't that long ago when we were talking about 5 teams
I
atop
know.
the WCC standings in women's basketball. 5. It was chaos and it was great. Then it went down to 2, and now there's one team all by itself atop the perch.
And guess who? Gonzaga. I mean, they start 1-2, and there's wringing of hands and what's happened to Gonzaga, but everything they lost to graduation and injury, and they come back and they have won 7 straight. And who is leading the way? And it is absolutely no surprise is Yvonne Ejim, who is having a fantastic year. And just what she's done this year with sort of a new cast, it is really, really impressive. And impressive for me as well this week is LMU. They come into last week. They have not won a game. They're sitting at 0-7. They've dealt with the fires down in LA, and they come back and win 2 of 3. And just, more power to them to just kind of seize the moment, get some wins, and look to just make this season a whole lot better than it was the week before.
How impressive is Nadia Evans? I mean, wow.
Yeah, the grad transfer from Grand Canyon has just 37 points. It's the most scored by anybody in the conference so far this year. Just absolutely on fire in that game. Named player of the week in the WCC conference. And boy, she is a blast to watch.
Tip of the cap to USF. 2 huge bounce back victories. Freya Worth continues to carry the freight.
Yeah, and it's just not carry the freight. 2 games. She plays 40 minutes in the game. She doesn't miss free throws. I think she was 10 for 10. And this is a team that's home coming up and for a couple more games, and just doing everything she can up on the hilltop to just keep that team moving forward as well.
And don't blink, because Portland is right there with Gonzaga, and they continue to impress. When they win big.
Yeah, I mean, 2 road wins. You get 2 road wins in a weekend, you're doing something right in the WCC. Their net has been improving. They're back up to 69. And this is a team that sits at 18-3. When you go on into the history books and you say they haven't been this good at this point since 1996 and 97, I mean, we can all sit there and go, what were we doing in 96? I mean, like, no one even knows. I mean, that's how long ago it was. It's just what a year they're having. And Alexis, Mark, we talk about great individual performances. This is a team that on any given night, we can talk about somebody else. She had a sensational weekend in Pullman, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, my favorite thing. 4 assists, a couple of steals. I mean, you got a spot on a stat sheet, she's filling it up.
What's interesting about Portland is they rarely lose players to the transfer portal, but over the last few years, they've gotten key players in, and Mark is one of them.
Indeed, she's having a great year, as is Portland.
Yep. All right, Candace Pettigrew, is she a fun story for Washington State or what?
Yeah, she's named Freshman of the Week and had really been struggling. But the last 3 games, it's like the light bulb went on, double figures, getting out there, and really what a lift she has given this team off the bench.
All right, Washington State, Oregon State. Wow, we were waiting for this one, weren't we?
We were, and Washington State with a really, really impressive victory on the road. They moved to 8-4. They were on a 2-game slide, so they continue to be in the mix as you look up. And we have talked about it so much, Ann, how important a top 4 finish is, because just the road to a championship and that NCAA bid just gets so much easier if you can take 1 game away or 2 games away in that tournament setting.
We understand Gonzaga is the hottest team in the league, but right now, right behind, in terms of hotness, is Pacific. They're getting their act together. The ship is heading in the right direction. Love the fact that they have bookended overtime victories over Oregon State. You love it if you're a Pacific fan, not so much if you're an Oregon State rooter. But they've got a trio that will knock your socks off, including Liz Smith, and she will join us after this break. Welcome back to Points in the Paint. We promised you Liz Smith. We are going to deliver Liz Smith, the standout guard for Pacific. Young lady, thank you so much for joining us with Points in the Paint.
Of course. Happy to be here.
All right. So help us understand, and all the viewers out there, waiting for Pacific to be Pacific. The Tigers start a little bit slowly in conference play, but man, you're rocking and rolling now. What the heck has happened?
I think we just found our groove. We got comfortable with each other. Of course, me, Liz, and Anaya have been here for me 5 years, then 4 years. So we know how to play with each other, but just coming in with the new team, you got to kind of relearn everything that you used to know and, figure out new things to do. And but overall, I think we just really have leaned on our defense and just kind of let that carry us through the majority of the game. And we just play hard, played it together. And I think, like I said, we just found our groove.
Liz, talk a little bit about your teammates and just in particular what they have done in the last 4 games to really help you guys propel forward from a 7th place to a tie for 4th.
I think we've just been having a lot of fun. And I think that me being the oldest, they keep me young. They keep me fired up. They have so much energy throughout the game. And yeah, we've just been having fun and not, focusing too much on mistakes, not focusing too much on things that are in the past, just staying present and just trying to do the right thing going on in the future.
You had a pretty good viewpoint on that block at the end of the Oregon State game. I saw you kind of on the wing there, kind of looking at that block shot as the pass went into Kelsey Reese. What's your play-by-play on that and your analysis as well?
Analysis, don't let anybody score, obviously. Attempt to not let them get a shot up. I was focused on my matchup. Everybody else was focused on theirs. And like I said, we've just been leading on our defense. And I think that play really encapsulates the past 4 games for us.
Before we get to some really fun and cool personal stuff about you, I want to bring in your teammates one more time, those veterans that have been with you through thick and thin. It seems like since the dawn of time, Liz Elliott, Anaya James, and you combining for 3,943 points at the moment. I want you to think about that number, almost 4,000 points. What have those 2 specific players, the 3 of you, done for this program?
Well, first of all, they're like sisters to me. Like you said, been through thick and thin. When they first came to Pacific, we won 6 games. So we know what it feels like to lose, and we know what it feels like to win. And we've just been trying to, spread our experience to our younger partners on the floor and just I don't even know how to describe our experience, but I mean, they're just the best.
You've been with this program a long time and your teammates and your coach. What does your coach mean to you?
To describe it in one word, family. Like, I've stayed here for 5 years. I obviously have probably had opportunities to transfer and go anywhere else, but I love being here. I love wearing this on my chest every single day. There's no other university I'd rather represent. There's no other coach I'd rather play for. There's no other teammates I'd rather be with. This is my home. This is my family.
And then you look at the upcoming schedule, and it gets real serious real fast. You go on the road. You go to Gonzaga, Washington State, then Gonzaga, and then you play Santa Clara, and all 3 on the road. What's it going to take to kind of keep this momentum going?
Defense, obviously, keeping up our confidence, composure, especially going to play at the Kennel. It's always an experience. It's always rowdy in there. So just staying composed, staying poised, staying together.
You're a Dallas native. Everybody knows that. You cut your teeth in terms of the love of the game at a young age, but when the Mavs won that 2011 NBA title, yeah, I got you. So between the Mavs and growing up in a sports family, were you always destined to play D1 college basketball?
I think I was destined to play something, that's for sure. But yeah, basketball, I've loved basketball. And like you said, when the Mavs won in 2011, that's what really kick-started it. I started playing basketball that summer after they won. And of course, my dad played professional football. My mom, she doesn't get talked about enough, but she was an amazing athlete as well. She was a world-class gymnast. She was awesome back in her day. But yeah, I think I was destined to play sports. I've always been athletic, and I've always loved sports.
And is it true, I went to your LinkedIn page, that you're working on your MBA?
I am working on my MBA.
It seems impossible. I got my MBA at Notre Dame while I was coaching. I cannot imagine getting an MBA while you're playing college basketball. How are you doing it?
It's tough. My program's actually online and asynchronous, which means I can kind of just build my schedule how I want, which is really, really nice. I don't get behind when we travel because it's just everything's on my computer. But yeah, it's tough. And I don't come from a business background at all. I got my bachelor's in communication. So
yeah,
this
me
is
too. It was tough.
Yeah, this is just a whole new world.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. And President Callahan, our president at UOP, this was kind of his program that he wanted to bring back to UOP and bring it online. And I'm kind of like one of the lab rats for it. So a lot of it's really, really new, but I mean, it's been great.
You both are above my pay grade. You are.
I'm using it my MBA a lot. You can tell in my career. So
well. So let's talk about love of basketball, segueing into, which is kind of your job right now, if you will, into what you would call right now a hobby, and that's your love of music. We know that Beyonce was your first concert. She's beloved in Texas. You're watching her up on stage saying, "Why not me?" What happened?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you're a Texan, you know Beyonce is the queen. So I know pretty much every single Beyonce song. I've grown up singing. My mom's favorite artist is Beyonce. She loves music, and I think it's just something that I've always loved. And in COVID, when there was absolutely nothing to do, I bought myself a piano and I taught myself how to play piano. I bought myself a ukulele and I taught myself how to play ukulele. And I think that's what honestly kickstarted it. So now I can make music, I can write music, I can produce anything. Like I love music.
And you're doing that, right? You're writing, you're producing, you're putting music and beats out there, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. How does that fill your soul? How does that fill your spirit? How does that make you a better basketball player?
I think just creativity, just not really having a plan. Like I don't really go into making a song like I'm gonna sing about this or I'm gonna, make this certain. I'm just like free flowing, just whatever happens, happens. And I think it's the same thing with basketball. Like you can't really predict anything that's gonna happen in the game. You kind of just have to read and react. And I think it's the same thing with music. And just like I said, being creative, like it's the same thing with basketball. You have to be creative. You have to use your brain a little bit to get what you want.
And if we back up the truck, I mean, did you really go away to high school for 4 years? And I mean, you've been away from home now for 9 years. I mean, you're like a 30-year-old already. What was it like at such a young age to leave home and go to IMG in Florida?
It was crazy. I'll say that. I think I was definitely probably too young to go, just maturity wise, but I think it forced me to grow up really, really fast. I think that it prepared me for college for sure, being away from the family. I didn't have to adjust to that going into college. And it was COVID when I went into college. So the IMG experience really did prepare me really well. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. I grew up with my friends. My roommates were my teammates. My neighbors were also my teammates. It was a fun time.
And I think we want to know the Super Bowl's coming up. Can a
Oh, yeah.
Cowboy fan pull for Philly, or is it Kansas City all the way? Where's your household? Where are you going on this one?
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Kansas City because Pat Mahomes is from Texas. So let's go Chiefs.
Let's go, Chiefs. Let's go, Liz Smith. You are an absolute delight. Thank you so much for taking the time. Continued success, stretch run time in your career at the University of Pacific. Make it memorable, young lady. And then, goodness sakes, who knows what else is out there for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, take a break, go make music, head to practice. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment. Welcome back to Points in the Paint. So glad to have everybody here. I think this is our 6th episode, Mary Murphy. I think this is number 6.
I know you count very well, Ann Schatz.
Thank you very much. And we're about at the halfway point in conference play, which means the standings and the games coming up. We've been talking about important contests up to this point, and we're not letting up. They just continue to roll in.
Yeah, and just from a former coaching perspective, let me just say that this is a really tough time of year for teams, freshmen especially, coaching staffs. We've been together really since the summer, and there's always like this horizon that you can keep improving and keep working. But, you're looking at like a 5-week season right now, and then you're heading into tournaments. So suddenly coaches' perspectives change, and I think players right now, you're just trying to get over the hump and, school and weather and everything that's going on. This can be a really, really tough time of year. And the teams that do well really have to power through, and they're able to keep their focus. And I think one of the things we've got coming up are some teams that are home for the entire week. We don't get that very often in the WCC.
I think we're talking Portland, Gonzaga, Washington State, USF, and I think Oregon State, all in their own cribs, in their own gyms for the entire weekend. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I think it's so important if you're home for the whole weekend that you're not traveling, you dig into your academics to school, but you dig into basketball, you get your rest, and you just kind of catch up with your life. But boy, you got to dominate at home, because when you look at the standings, and we've done that a bunch, where you finish really does matter as far as seedings in Vegas, and the pressure, and coaches are talking to us more and more about that. These games coming up are really important.
So let's talk about some of the games coming up. that kind of have caught your eye? Because to your point, Mayor, we continue to scoreboard watch because of these seedings, not just who's on top, but what's happening all the way down to 7, 8, 9.
Well, for me, this is a key, absolutely key weekend for St. Mary's. They're sitting at 7-3. They go to Portland. They go to Oregon State, so they can end up 9-3, 8-4, or slide to 7-5. So that's a big shift. So they take the show on the road. Can they create chaos on the road and come away with a win or two? So this is a huge weekend for the Gales.
I like the way St. Mary's has played this season up to this point. But to your point, there's going to be a lot of proof in the pudding once the dust settles after the juggernaut of Portland and Oregon State on the road. All right, Pacific, one of the hotter teams in the league going into the weekend. They've got some tests as well.
Yeah, they start Thursday and they're at Washington State. Now, Washington State already is up in that 1-0. They've won the first meeting. So we've talked about over the course of the podcast, tiebreakers matter because clearly with what we're seeing at the tightness in the standings, any team right now, if you're even or you're up 2-0, you're in great shape. This is a 20-game conference schedule. Every game matters, but the tiebreakers are really going to matter down the stretch.
And if you're Pacific, are you really loading up first of 2 games, Washington State, Gonzaga? Are you really loading up for that game in Pullman? If you're going to get one, you got to get that one. That's the most likely, or do you just go in fresh 1 game at a time?
I just think you just have to take every quarter as it comes.
Okay.
Every half as it comes. Because you got to get there, you got to get settled, and you got to get comfortable, and you just got to go out there and win. And then you worry about the next one. You cannot project forward. You got to stay in the moment.
I'm gonna touch base too with you and tip my cap to USF. Deborah Dos Santos, their leader, their best player, goes down to the ACL a few weeks ago. It feels like she hasn't played in forever. And USF kind of is in shock, stumbles a bit, and boy, they have gotten back on their feet. They will be tested, but winnable games, I think, for the Dons this weekend.
Well, they're back at home on the hilltop, and so it's a great opportunity for them. So another great slate, and we'll look forward to coming back and talking about it next week.
It's just been so much fun to hit this halfway point of the West Coast Conference season with so many storylines, so many great players. The interviews have just been a blast. And of course, we will be with you next week as we continue Points in the Paint. For Mary Murphy, I'm Ann Schatz. See you soon.